Hey everybody, and welcome to our retro Firefly After Show here on Movie Blog TV. My personal, John Campea here, my YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining us as we have started out on an epic adventure, going back and watching all of the original series of Firefly. The idea spawned by the fact that one of our partners here, Kaori, has never seen Firefly before, and today we're doing the after show for episode number 2. What's the name of this episode? I think it was just
The Train Job.
The Train Job. And we're so glad you joined us. My name is John Campea. I'll be one of your hosts today. And, of course, sitting over here to my right, first of all, is Kaori. Kaori, how you doing?
Hi, guys. I am the Firefly Virgin.
Woohoo! And, of course, well, now she's already done the pilot, which means she's rounding into third base. Yes. So then there's Anne.
What's up, everybody?
And then there's me. And, hey, I want to remind you guys that you can... Now, we don't do this show, we don't stream the show live, but if you want to get questions or comments on the show, you can tweet to us. Here we go. Tweet to us at the hashtag Firefly After Show. So if you tweet questions or comments to us, we go through those. Anne's already got a big list of all the people who have been tweeting with that hashtag since last week, since we did episode 1. And we'll probably get your question or comment on the show if we can. We'll go through as many as we can a little bit later anyway, after we talk about the episode. But I will tell you, one of the things that people asked last week and suggested was that, hey, they think every single episode we should take a minute and say what our favorite line from that episode was, which is a great idea because Firefly, being a Joss Whedon show, of course, is filled with great one-liners and lines and stuff like that. So let's start before we even talk about the other stuff in the episode. This is the train heist episode. And let's start with you. What was your favorite line from this episode of Firefly?
All right. People are probably looking for a funny one, but I actually wrote down one that I thought was really relevant and really says a lot about the character. So I wrote down, I've got heathens aplenty from
right here.
Shepherd.
That is a good line. That's a great line. What about you, Kaori?
I actually don't have one. My favorite moment, though, is when the companion slaps Mal.
That was a good moment.
Okay, is that a quote? Kind of.
Yeah, I guess if a smack is a quote, I guess so. My favorite line from this, well, we'll talk about. Nishka says some pretty cool things too, but we'll talk about Nishka in a minute. But my favorite line was right in the beginning of the show, actually, of the episode, when they're in the bar during Unification Day, and he says to the guy at the bar, "I reckon you ain't burdened with an overabundance of learning." It's a good way of saying you're stupid. I love that. There's so many great lines in the show. So there are heathens aplenty. Mm-hmm. We've got the smack, and we've got you are not overburdened with an abundance of learning.
I have a close runner-up. That's why I was looking at my two. Can I say what
yeah,
the other
what's the
one
other
was?
one?
Kaylee saying crime.
Yeah. When the doc comes in, what are you doing? Crime.
So sweet, right? But it was just so funny.
All right, well, let's talk about this episode. Let's start with talking about, as we always like to start things off with, the things, the elements, the moments, the overall ideas of what we liked about this episode. So, Anne, let's start with you.
For episode 2, I thought there was a lot of relationship building in this particular episode. You start to see the interaction of all the characters, especially Kaylee with Jane, and how they've kind of got this butting of heads thing going on. You see the first kind of cute relationship with Kaylee and Simon start to grow. I also have how Simon is with River. You know, he's very protective of her, and that continues to grow in this episode. And then you really start to hear, like John was saying, the Whedonisms, and they're coming out of everyone's mouth, but in particular Mal's. Whereas I think in the first episode, Kaori was saying, you know, why is this guy such a jerk? Why is he such an asshole? And this one, he really does. It's such a difference, night and day for me, from the pilot to second episode, where he really does start to lighten up, and you start to hear him crack jokes with the crew and people actually laughing at what he has to say instead of just looking at him like, what are you saying to me, you know?
Kaori?
I'm hopping on your train about the whole, no pun intended, because of the title, but because the relationships I've started to notice the kinds of relationships everyone has. Kaylee having this apparent huge crush on Simon. River being mysterious and everyone being quite unsure of her. Jane, is it his name?
Yeah.
Jane, who seems like he's off on his own, but then every once in a while he does something helpful. And then I really like the relationship between Mal and the companion. For some reason,
Inara.
There's something going on. I know it. And every time they're really close on screen, I feel like they want to make out, but they can't. I don't know why. But yeah, there are a lot of positives. For me, it was like my first time I really, really saw Mal do something nice. When he found out that this theft was actually taking away medicine, he realized that he didn't want to do something that terrible. And I was like, oh, he is a good guy. Like, because in the pilot, I wasn't so sure he was a good guy. He seemed kind of selfish, but this kind of changed that for me. So we'll see.
Yeah, there was a really good line, too, when the sheriff, who, by the way, for those of you who don't recognize the sheriff from this episode, if you saw James Gunn's movie Slither, which Nathan Fillion also stars in, he is the mayor, I believe, of the town in Slither. So you see, all these guys like to work together. But no, yeah, when the sheriff confronts them and he says, but when somebody finds out the full ramifications of what they're doing, then he has a choice. And Mal looked at him and goes, "No, we don't." Or I reckon he don't. Yeah, that was a really good line. To me, so many great moments in this. I mean, we get introduced to Nishka, which is just a great character. There's something so unbelievably intimidating about this frail little man, and yet he's so scary at the same time. And that line when he's like, "You do not approve that I kill this man." I'm sure he's a very bad person. My wife's nephew.
Yeah.
I will get an earful at dinner. I love that line. And I mean, actually, that one line is so indicative of the whole show. There's something very deadly serious going on, but it's handled with this light hand. That's done really great. And again, there's another scene in this episode that is very reminiscent of the pilot. Because you remember in the pilot, Mal comes back on the ship, and there's the mole holding the gun to Kaylee's head again. And there's no talking, no nothing. She's like, "Oh, okay, well, you're dead." Boom. Kills him. That is really reminiscent of this. I can't remember what he called his henchman. Blade or Hook or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's just say Hook.
Tattoo face.
Yeah, let's just call him Hook for argument's sake. But he's talking to Hook, say, "Here's all of Nisha's money, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to hunt you down. I'm going to kill you." Darn. Kicks him right. Just, okay, you're dead then. And he puts him through the engine. And then, of course, that really funny next moment brings in the next guy, and he starts the same line. "Here's all of Nishka's money," blah, blah. So well done. I mean, such a great thing. And you're right. The thing with Kaylee, that this episode introduces us to really a lot about Kaylee's character. She is so sweet and so, doe-eyed. And just so, I mean, when she's sitting there just getting her hair combed by Inara, like, she feels pretty and she feels so special. And there's something about, and I keep forgetting the actress's name. Actually, I've got it up here somewhere.
Jewel State.
Okay. That, she plays this so perfectly. And even when, Inara kind of sings, "I bet Simon notices too." And she's like, she starts to object. It's like, "So do you think it looks better up?" And like all that kind of stuff. I love the way they do that. They really start to define too in this episode the relationship between Mal and Zoe.
Yes.
The camaraderie and their banter back. I love when she's like, I can't remember what he said to start the conversation. And she's like, "Then can I have your share?" "Oh yeah, no." He says, "Man, there's alliance officers here. This is gonna be fun. I do this for free." And she goes, "Can I have your share?" "No." "If you die, can I have your share?"
Yes.
Like, I really like that. So many great moments. And you mentioned the stuff about Jane, that he's such a dick, but when the push comes to shove, he saves Mal's life in it. Even though he's been drugged and he's mad. And I love the beginning of the episode too, when they're about to get this big bar fight. He's like, "I didn't pick a fight. I'm just sitting back here."
Was funny.
But then he ended up coming out of the bar door anyway, taking on 4 guys at once, which is pretty indicative of his character. You start to see more about Wash, and I really like, this is the first episode where they really start to touch on that quirky relationship between Inara and Mal. Like, and I love the way it starts off, because Inara's combing Kaylee's hair. And she goes, "Sometimes you tell the potential client there's an aura," and then he walks in, "An aura about their bank account, where you can feel how much money," and that contentious, flirty relationship. So good.
And it continues on into that scene where they're stuck in holding. And Inara has to come break them out, and she says something like, I think the sheriff said something like, his story had an odor about it. And she's like, that's not the only thing that has an odor about him.
I feel like there was this sexual tension just
Big
with that
time.
slap. She's like, yes, it was great. I don't know. And Jewel Staite's character is very innocent. I feel... I'm all worried about her getting tainted, even when Jane comes in and tries to tell her, oh, that's going to happen, that's going to happen. I'm like, don't say that to her. It's going to hurt her feelings. Yeah.
I actually think that Kaylee has my absolute favorite one line out of the whole series.
Wow.
And I can't say it yet because it
okay.
hasn't happened and Kaori hasn't seen all this stuff yet. So I can't say yet.
No spoilers.
But I can't even hint at what it is.
No,
If I hint at what
don't
it is,
even.
she'll
Just
kind of pick
wait.
up on it. So some of you will probably know what I'm talking about when I say Kaylee probably has the best single line out of all the episodes.
Do you know?
But
No.
probably not.
I have bad memory.
Okay, so then let's talk about... I'll start off with this one. We'll talk about the things that maybe could have been done better in this episode. And for me, action is not done so great. Like the fight scenes, particularly, I think even you, Carrie, when the fight scene in the bar was starting to happen, I can't remember what you said, but you said something like that. This is kind of disappointing or
I
something.
said this is kind of cheesy, and that was going to be my negative for this as well.
Yeah, the fight scenes and the choreography of fights and things like that are pretty bad. And I'm not sure that they get much better as the show goes. But, I mean, it's not really a vital, important thing about it. Gosh, other than that, I got nothing else. The fight scenes aren't very well done.
Yeah.
That's about the extent of it that I've got. Anyway, do you got anything constructive?
I mean, that's pretty much all that I was kind of bothered by. But at the same time, it was, over 10 years ago. It's a network's TV show at the time. They didn't have much to work with. They didn't want to hurt each other. It was just so obvious that they were hitting the air and the sound. And it was like watching Batman with Adam West or something. But other than
Pow! Yeah, you expected to see.
It's almost, there's
Bam!
something nice and natural about it being so campy, though, the action, you know? Like, I think maybe that's part of the reason why we like the show, is because they didn't really care to do the action right or perfect. It was other stuff that we care about: the dialogue, the interaction, the relationships, you know, those kinds of things.
We don't need stuntmen to come in here and do a fight sequence. Just go, ah!
And even shows today, there's a lot of shows I can think of today that still don't do action right. So for what it was back then, I think it was great.
I have a negative that I just thought of, as I want to know more already about River, because all we know is that she's been harmed, and she doesn't even want to tell her brother, and I'm just like, I'm dying to know. And I asked these guys, are we going to find out by the end of this series? And their answer was no.
No.
I'm hoping they're lying to me. I really hope they're lying to me, but we'll see.
The stuff with River is a really slow burn.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very, very slow burn.
You can
That's
tell
gonna
they
be painful.
intended to... That, like I said in the last episode that we did, after show we did, is that was their intent, to stretch that storyline the length of the series, I imagine.
Well, I remember hearing Whedon talk about this once, and he kind of hinted at the notion that Serenity, the movie, is pretty much the story arc of all of season 2 that they had planned out. And they kind of condensed season 2 and what they were planning for season 2 and what was going to happen and unfold. They kind of crammed that into Serenity. As a movie fan, because you all know my main gig is I'm the movie guy, but as a movie fan, I'm really glad they did that, because it gave us Serenity, which is just, like I said, one of my favorite sci-fi films of the past 10 years. But it meant we missed out on what they were going to do. But all that comes in season 2, a.k.a. Serenity. But you're right. You already start to get impatient. You want, okay, what's going on with this girl? And I don't think it's a spoiler to let Kaori know that really what's going on with the girl is pretty much the most important thing of the entire series.
That's obvious.
But that becomes obvious,
Yeah. And I'm also I'm really glad that I'm watching it this round with the pilot being what we saw last week.
Yes.
Because from what I hear, this episode was the pilot in the original run, and I would have been a little more confused.
Well, I mean, it wasn't the pilot; they just aired it out of order. Yeah,
I would have been confused if this was the first episode I've seen because they had a lot of references to last episode's one. So,
but you remember last week I said one of the weaknesses of that pilot was it didn't really explain don't explain plot. That's fine, but it didn't really explain the universe they live in. You shouldn't be keeping the environment the mystery. If the environment is your mystery, you're doing it wrong. And they didn't do a good job. And then episode 2, which we watched tonight, just as Shepherd Book is doing the opening things as the opening credit. When we used up the Earth, we did this, then we did this, and there was the Alliance and the war, blah. In 30 seconds, not even 30 seconds, 15 seconds, he completely, tangibly, clearly explain the setting of the universe that this story is taking place in. Very well written. Because it took like 15 seconds and they explained, and as a viewer, now we totally understand this universe that these characters are now acting in, and it makes and when we understand the universe that they live in, it makes us appreciate more what their characters are doing and understand what their characters are doing. So I thought that was really cool the way they introduced all that. So before we move on to the Twitter stuff, is there any other thoughts or things that stood out to you about this episode?
Yes. This was the first. Well, I have a lot of stuff, but this is the first episode we get the line 2 by 2 hands of blue.
Yeah.
I didn't even catch that. Where was I?
That's pretty much the only thing River said all
so that's funny because for me, I didn't even hear what she was saying. I just felt like she was mumbling to herself. And so I didn't catch that.
She is,
and then that's why at the end there, when those 2 agent guys are there and they've got the blue gloves on, it's like, whoa, wait a minute, they've got hands of blue. Yeah,
so that's supposed to be the feeling that you get at the end.
Well, and the most gory part is when she has that flashback where something's happening to her and there's like a needle going towards her bloody skull. Oh my gosh, I want to know more about her.
So what else, Anne?
Book. I think you get just a little bit of a hint that there's history to this guy because he knows Nishka. Yeah. You know, and you're like, why does a preacher know this name and why does he know details about this guy?
And I believe, I could be mistaken, the mystery on Book really hits its peak. I believe it's the next episode. I believe it's the next one. It's either the next episode or episode 4
I personally think that it actually doesn't hit its peak in the show. I think it hits its peak in the comic.
I think they explain it in the comic,
right?
But I think the whole peak of understanding of knowing, oh my gosh, there's so much more to Book than we realize. Right. You know the scene I'm talking about that's coming too. Okay, I've said too much. Anyway, what else stood out to you, honey?
I thought I had one more thing. Oh, in terms of negatives, I agree with the action. The only other thing I could think of is maybe that the intro to the Alliance was kind of weak for me. I know that they build this alliance up to be, they're the people that defeated the
Independents.
The Independents. And then, in this story, at least in this particular episode, we just get this guy who's doesn't look even dominant to me. The captain or whoever they're showing speaking on behalf of the Alliance in this episode. I just wanted to see a little bit more strength or a reason why the Alliance would be this tough entity that they're afraid of. But then you kind of get this kind of out-of-shape dude that's telling people to tell what to do. I don't know. I think that I'm just nitpicking, but for me, I would have expected a little bit more.
All right, well, with that out of the way, let's get into the Twitter stuff. Like, what have people been tweeting to us? Once again, I'll bring this up here. You can tweet stuff to us at FIREFLY After Show. So tweet to us with the hashtag in your tweet, FIREFLY After Show, and we will get those messages. So Anne's got a bunch of things pulled up on the Twitter stream. So what do we got in there?
Do you want to ask that one question? I can't find it, but I know that you saw one.
I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Someone in the YouTube comments left a question. Who do I, and questions for you guys as well, relate to the most? Which character do you relate to the most in Firefly? Me? I've only got 2 episodes to go off of, and to be quite honest, I don't really feel any connection or any similarities in my own personal character versus anyone in the show as of yet. Yeah.
Anne?
I find traits from all of them, but if I had to pick one up to episode 2, I would say Simon. Only because he's very protective of his sibling, and that's how I am in real life, is I'm a very loyal person. So I think just seeing his interaction with River and how much he cares for her, even though she's in this crazy state of mind, I really respect that about him. And he's supposed to be really smart. And I think I have some smarts in me, too.
And you are very smart. Very smart. Me... Well, I mean, there's only 4 people I guess I can draw from. There's Jane. I don't think I'm a Jane. I don't think I'm a Shepherd Book. I don't think I'm the Doctor. I'm a Nara. I'm a high-quality piece of ass that people will pay money for. No, that's absolutely not the case. I don't know. I don't know. I guess, let me get more into the series. And I'll ask us that question again when we get closer to the end of our little series here. So, okay, what else we got?
Okay, we got a question from Nathan Malia, who asks, what are your first impressions / thoughts about Jane? Good guy, bad guy, love him, hate him, ?
Kaori, you should start this off.
That's exactly how I feel about Jane. Good guy, bad guy, ? Because he really seems egotistical and all about himself, and it's not for the greater good, but it's all for himself. But then every single time, the few couple times I've witnessed, when push came to shove, he chose Firefly and the ship over himself. So I don't know where I would be pulling my assessment for him just yet.
Jane is one of the most interesting characters in the show. Mm-hmm. And by interesting, I mean, you're always going to be on your toes with Jane. You're not quite sure where he's at. And that's part of the things that makes you want to keep your eye on him and why he's so interesting, why I like him so much, Anne.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think even the duration of the series, like you're saying, you're going to question, I think everybody, but include Jane's, I think more so over everybody, question his intentions. And
I got to say, the episode... The Man They Called Jane is
yes
either my number 1 or number 2 favorite episode of the series. So I can't wait till we get to that one.
I do have a question, guys.
Sure.
Does it become more clear Jane's
Nope.
Okay. Allegiance? No, not so much. All right.
Not really.
No.
All right, what else do we got?
Okay, Tom Capone asks, could we see Firefly return as as in a rebooted TV show in maybe 10 years with none of the original cast?
I haven't seen the whole show, obviously, but I kind of hope not. I like when things just stay this way.
I don't think we'll see the show rebooted, no. And I think Joss Whedon had hoped for it for a while, but I think he's moved on from that. And, the fact of the matter is, the show went off the air because not enough people watched it. And then everybody thought, yeah, but now everybody loves it because it got on home video and people got behind it. Okay, so that's why they made Serenity the movie. And nobody went to go see it. So I don't think, while there is a very passionate group of us who love Firefly and Serenity, I don't think a studio believes that there's enough people to warrant that and to sustain that. And I'm with Carrie on this. I'm usually all for rebooting anything, particularly talking about movies. But I'm as comfortable leaving it as it is now. It's so perfect, the way it is, and I'm satisfied. If anything, I'd like to see another Serenity movie. I wouldn't mind seeing a Serenity 2, but a rebooted Firefly TV show, nah, not me personally.
Yeah, I'm there with you guys. I wouldn't want to see it because, like you said, it should be treasured as it is right now. But for me, I'm not yearning as much as you guys because I've got the comics. And they're great. And I'm raving about them because I can't wait for this one to finish so I could hand over the comics to her. That's the beauty of comics. They could keep going with it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Walter Louis G asks, when you first saw the show, was it live? Well, this wouldn't be for you then. When Fox aired it out of order, or did you discover it later?
I discovered it later.
I was also later.
Yeah. I believe I don't... Actually, to be frank, I think I only saw one episode of Firefly before Serenity came out. And I think I saw... So essentially, I saw Serenity before I saw Firefly. And I still love Serenity, and I totally got everything that was going on. And it just made me... Then going back and watching Firefly just made me appreciate Serenity even more. What about you?
Well,
no.
Yeah, no answer there.
N/A.
I don't even know why I decided to start watching it. I can't even remember.
Well, because I was telling you about how great it was, but then you started hearing from a couple of other people that it was really good, and it was on Netflix. You're like, yeah, I think I'm going to watch this and give it a try. And then you got hooked.
I plowed through them.
I think you saw the whole series in a week or less.
Yes.
In a few days, yeah.
For sure. Okay, so Boba Rock asks, what do you guys think of the theme song and the intro?
Well, to be honest, John has been singing the intro.
We're urging him to sing it on camera.
Take my land, take me where I cannot stand. Doodle-doodle-doo. That's all you're going to get out of me.
I think it's really interesting because it has like a Western feel, which is kind of what encompasses the whole feel of the show.
Yeah.
Yet it's spacey. So
it's a sci-fi. Yeah. It's a sci-fi Western.
Yeah.
And the music is that of a Western, and it's really it's Mal's theme song. It's really the song of Mal's heart when you really think about it and you read the lyrics and you think about it. I think it's a perfect theme song for the show. I love it.
Yeah, and it gets stuck in your head. And am I right that Joss wrote the lyrics to the song?
I did not know that.
I just thought he did.
I don't care.
We'll find out. You guys tweet us. Let us know.
Free.
John Campea performed it, actually.
Yes, that was me.
This is not so much a question, but I thought this was interesting because we talked about this. Tom Zboril says, I love the characters and stories, but also the small details that added realism, like no sound in space.
Oh, it's funny because we were watching the show, and I said, as Serenity was leaving the orbit of the one planet, I said out of nowhere, and I also love that they never have sound in space,
You did say
which
that.
is made so unique and different from all the other sci-fi shows, and of course more accurate. But not that Firefly is based on reality, but it is really cool, and there's something dramatic as well when they go into space and it's the dead silence. There's a dramatic turn that silence gives you that I really, really like.
Kind of think gravity bit off of Firefly, you know?
Well, gravity is supposed to be real, so yeah.
I think we have one more question here. Let me find it.
I did prefer Firefly to Gravity. Just saying.
Okay, Andrea Elizabeth Marie, and I don't know if this is actually a question for us to answer, but maybe we do have an answer to it. Rewatching Firefly, third time, love the show. How many TV shows are more popular 12 years later when they were on air?
Yeah, very few. Star Trek would be one. I mean, I Love Lucy is probably as popular today as it's ever been in its history.
That's true.
That one doesn't change.
Yeah.
But it's few and far between. Flintstones, Arrested Development, but we're not 12 years removed from that.
I know.
Yet.
I was going to say maybe Friends, but I don't know if Friends is that old.
Well, Friends was like the #1 show on TV. I don't know that increased
Married
popularity.
with Children for me.
I don't know overall, though. I just know that
Yeah.
I know.
You are the
great.
special.
Yeah,
I am the special. That's true. For that, yeah.
But yeah,
love
I mean,
that
it
show
really
too.
does speak a lot to even today. You still go to Comic-Con today, and so many people, so many browncoats when you go to Comic-Con today. It's crazy how popular and it has just endured. And as new people watch it, it just doesn't get dated. It's just you just appreciate it more and more, and it's really great. Well, that's about it for us tonight. We're out of time. That is us for our retro after show of Firefly Episode 2. Thanks so much for joining us. I want to thank, of course, Kaori. Kaori, where can people find you online?
You can find me right there. Perfect. Kaorious.
And where can people find you?
You can find me at Ann Campea.
And you can find me on the social media networks just at John Campea. So thanks a lot for joining us, guys. We'll be back again maybe later this week, maybe next week. I don't know. We'll do the show whenever we do it. We can do it as often as we want, I guess, when we do our Firefly Retro After Show, Episode 3. Keep your eye open for that. So thanks a lot for joining us. See you later.